Hi everyone, it's Becky here. So welcome to another new video on my YouTube channel. And today is a beautiful early autumn day here in Montreal. And actually I have like a bit of time before I have to go visit a friend. And here I'm in downtown on Peel Street. So I just went into a cafe and got a cup of latte and a donut. They're just sitting outside at their patio and just looking at the view in front of me and also around. Yeah, these are the buildings in downtown Montreal on Peel Street. And here we're looking into Mont Royal. And I just love the changing colors of these greeneries on Mont Royal and around on the bottom of the street. And so I decided to sketch this view right in front of me. As you can see, the sitting area, the table is so narrow, so it barely fits my sketchbook. So yeah, just gonna sketch this view in front of me pretty quickly before I take the metro to visit my friend. So I just used a pencil to do a very quick layout of the perspective, just so I'm including everything that I need to include to show this a nice one-point perspective, very dramatic. Starting to draw this building on the left is a pretty sharp foreshortened angle. As you can see, the line above my eye level there, the lines above my eye level is like sinking down towards the right into the middle. The vanishing point, there's a vanishing point in the middle of this scenery. And after adding these important lines, I'm starting to draw the inner details, these windows, adding a little accentuation under the rooftop and dividing the rooftop into smaller shapes, those sections. And now I'm connecting these structures on top of Mount Royal with the third floor, or actually the fourth floor of that building. Yeah, it's aligning on the same level. And then adding these branches and twigs of the trees. Yeah, I think there are like several trees merging together at around the end of the street, and connecting the bottom of the tree with a traffic signal, which is also being foreshortened, seen from an angle. And adding some cars. There's a street lamp right beside the building. On the left over here is curving, yeah. And adding another tree. There are a lot of overlappings there on that end of the street. And adding some more tiny little human figures walking there. Some more lamps and traffic signs, poles. Yeah, just keep it really simple and do it nice and quick. It's like tiny little car in the far distance. Yeah, so all of these cars are like parked very close to one another. It's always hard to find a parking space in downtown. Yeah, and just drawing the top contour of these foliages, probably several foliages merging together, and then connecting the right side with this building. As you can see, this line is going sharply upwards towards the right. Yeah, that's the perspective in here. Yeah. And then adding this tiny little human figure walking away into the distance. And adding another human a little bit closer to us, the viewers. And he's looking a little larger compared to that guy in the far distance. Another idea of perspective. And just drawing these divisions of window or door frames of these display windows of the restaurants and stores, and some more important lines that defines perspective. But before that, I see someone interesting passing by, so I'm starting to draw this lady with short hair wearing sunglasses. Yeah, it's nice to draw like the front view of someone walking towards us, so just making this scenery very inviting. Yeah, that's her upper body. She's wearing a jacket and her legs in walking gesture. Okay, that's that. And now I'm starting to draw this little tree somewhere in the middle ground, pretty close to us, with just a few leaves. It's a very young tree. And now I'm starting to add these blocks of, I think these are like dividing the lawn area and the alleys. Yeah, and just adding those random structures, those parking spaces for bicycles, fire hydrant. Yeah, and again drawing these two cars overlapping together because they're parked so close to one another tightly. Yeah, the outline of the car is very much like a round trapezoid, and it's just gradually adding these windows and the front structure and the construction items, the cones in front of the car, and then adding these foliage textures with squiggly lines. Yeah, and now I'm starting to draw this probably an apartment building behind these foliages. It is a prism shape, and we can see two sides of it. Starting to add the top view of Mont Royal's contour outline, and there's another shorter building on the right, adding these rooftop structures, the circulation systems of the apartment building, and making the gaps in between each floor with solid black ink to show the dark shade. And these are very much like repetition for these windows and balconies. Yeah, lots of like repeating lines and shapes. Just relax. Every little shape could be slightly different. And also accentuating those gaps in between with black ink and adding these super foreshortened windows. Yeah, this is like very extreme angle, very extreme side view of this building. Everything looks squished. And yeah, accentuation here and there, adding some brick textures. That's it. And yeah, I love those clouds floating on top of the Mount Royal and the apartment building there. Now I'm ready to paint watercolors. As always, I paint skies first, pretty much all the time. Yeah, just wetting the sky area first with a little bit clear water. Yeah, so the color of the sky can kind of flow very smoothly and also with more translucency with the help of clear water in the beginning. And now, yeah, so this is gonna be in real-time speed for this painting process without any trimmings. Okay, now just adding this bit of cerulean blue. Yeah, nice and bold. Painting this sky color in between those floating clouds, just dragging this blue around. So it's actually is semi-transparent. It's not a solid blue. It's very much diluted. Yeah, just kind of spread this blue nice and light. There's just like one puffy cloud behind the building. It's different from the video that you see about a minute ago. Yeah, so that's the first layer for the sky. And now I am adding another slightly more intense, less diluted layer of cerulean blue, mixing with a little bit of green, so it's a little turquoise. I like this turquoise color because it's more refreshing than just cerulean blue. Yeah, so now I'm ready to paint this really inspiring area of foliages. It glows a little bit in the late afternoon sunshine. But yeah, first of all, I'm just gonna wet the area first with clear water by squeezing my water brush because I'm gonna do the wet into wet technique. It's very important just to wet that area first with clear water so the technique can work really well, nice and smooth. Yeah, so the very first layer is always the most vibrant and strong glowing colors. So this is a mix of lime green and a tiny bit of orange. This is the glowing color, the golden green of foliages in autumn. Okay, it's not just lemon yellow mixed with green. I decided to mix orange into lime green, so it's actually a golden glow in the fall, different from the yellow greens that we see in the spring. This is my sensation. And yeah, that's the first layer. And also mixing a tiny bit more orange in the middle of that tree there so it glows even more. And wet into wet, a little bit of viridian green mixing with a bit of burnt sienna for the middle and the bottom of these trees and leaving the top of these trees untouched. Yeah, just let it glow, don't overwork. Most of the shaded areas of these trees are around the middle to the bottom, maybe around the overlapping areas sometimes. Yeah, and just add, some more tiny bits of brush strokes of viridian green mixed with yellow ochre here and there as I observe. Yeah, so every day is actually different. Every time that I pass by and look at Mont Royal, somewhere in the middle of the city, the color is changing day after day. Yeah, so when painting autumn sceneries like this, it's very important to work wet into wet. We don't want like too many harsh brushstrokes. So we want these brushstrokes to be merging very nicely and in harmony together. Even though they're in separate layers, they're like kind of merging together in a very natural way without too many visible or harsh brushstrokes. Yeah, and I'm pretty happy with those foliages, and now I'm ready to move on to the next area. So just applying this bit of yellow ochre for the middle of the street. I'm putting on yellow ochre to show the color of the sunshine reflecting onto the street, and also these golden green foliages are somewhat reflecting their colors onto the street as well. So things in the world, they're always related, acting on one another. They're never just isolated. Yeah, the street is not just gray. It's always reflecting the color of the sun and objects around it. It just make a scenery look more lively to paint this way, to see the colors more than their original colors. Now I'm just wetting the building areas. Yeah, we have like 3 major buildings here with a bit of clear water and very much diluted yellow for everything. Yeah, even the sunshine is reflecting onto these buildings' exteriors as well. And to show the warm and strong sunshine on the street, just painting yellow is not enough. So now I am mixing the shadow color. So I mix my own gray with blue and a little bit royal purple together. So it's like kind of like a purplish gray. Yeah, these are the shadows from the buildings and the trees here and there, just applying this color to where I see. Yeah, there's another shadow here, and also not overpainting, leaving those nice bright gaps in between to show the contrast. Yeah, there are actually quite a lot of areas of shadows because we have a lot of cast shadow from these buildings. Because watercolor is like semi-transparent, even though I'm adding these dark shade color on top, we can still feel the yellow shining through underneath. So the yellow, the bright sunshine yellow is not 100% being covered by this dark purple blue shade. Yeah, that's what I love about watercolors is the lightliness, the way that we can see through so many definitions of colors in these layers, and adding a bit of shade in between these bars, these glassy areas. Yeah, and I always love painting sunshine and shadows. Without enough shadows, we can't really feel the power of the sunshine. So we always need shadows or shaded areas in a landscape or an urban landscape. Now I'm just adding a little bit mix of burnt sienna and raw umber, painting very loosely for this building on the left. Yeah, I think it's a heritage building. And also adding this dark brown tone for this apartment building standing high up there in the distance. I think this apartment building is very old, like at least 30 to 40 years old, at least. Yeah, for its color, the design. Yeah, just adding this very loosely in between each floor. There's like a dark gap. Yeah, and just adding this bit of leftover brown for these smaller buildings in the middle of Mont Royal. Yeah, and also just putting on these tiny little patches of shadows underneath those trees in the far distance. And just painting these cones. There's always construction site in downtown Montreal. It's always busy with renovations, demolitions. And now I'm gradually moving on to the last stage of painting, is to add a bit more contrast. I'm going to start with these foliages, which is the main attention point, with more viridian green, maybe mixing with a tiny bit of burnt sienna or brown. And yeah, this is the shadow on the exterior of this building with leftover gray. So again, I mixed my own gray with ultramarine blue and a little bit of royal purple. And this is like a very diluted. The original color of the building is still shining through underneath this shadow. So that's the difference of watercolors from acrylics, gouache, and oil painting. Is the transparency that makes our paintings look really relaxing and magical to look at. Yes, painting that sign of the restaurant. Yeah, and keep pushing and trying to add more contrast around the middle to the bottom of the sketch. Is the shadows in between and underneath these cars. So if you look very carefully, underneath every car on the street, there's usually like a super dark patch of shadow. Yeah. And also these humans, they all have like a shadow around the left side because the sun is on the other side. And painting this lady's outfit with this rosy color. Painting her outfit very loosely, as you can see. Yeah, using very quick brush strokes, and by the push of the brush stroke, there's with lighter pressure, that area is like slightly brighter to show the 3 dimension of her body. Yeah, and little gentle brush strokes here and there, almost invisible. Trying to add these. Yeah, just painting her pants with leftover gray. Yeah, and another thing about watercolors is when the paint dries, the color intensity might change. So it might look a little lighter than it looks when it's wet. So now I'm just adding another layer for the top of Mont Royal over here, containing less water and more pigment. Mostly viridian green, maybe mixing with a tiny bit of yellow ochre, just there. And these tiny choppy brush strokes to show more definition for these trees in the middle ground. Yeah, so when I'm painting, time feels like it's passing by very slowly, and at the same time, I can feel that time is passing by really quickly as well. So it's a really weird feeling when I'm like sketching and observing life around me. Yeah, just adding some more contrast and definition for these windows for the apartment building there. It's very quick punches of colors, and the right side is in shade. Just adding this leftover bluish gray and some more sharper contrast around the corners of the street. And also, as I'm moving on to the very last part of my sketch, my brushstrokes are getting smaller and smaller to add these very refined details, especially for those foliages in the middle. That's why I decided to sketch this scenery, is because of the charming layers of colors of these trees and Mount Royal. Yeah, so just some more definitions. Every single brushstroke is of a slightly different kind of green and yellow green. So yeah, so these trees and bushes look more dynamic. And I think that's pretty much it. I'm just gonna add some final shades for around these windows for this building, and I think that's it. It's time to let it go. And here's the look of my finished sketch. It took me about a half an hour on location. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching this video, everyone. If you like it, please click like and leave me a comment below. Subscribe to my channel for weekly updates. So I try to update this channel 2 to 3 times a week. And here's the look of my very simple setup and the view in front of me. I just love sketching the sceneries and the things around me every day. Yeah, so I will see you again very soon next time. Have a great weekend, everyone.